shit together. All right, leg workout today. Now I'm going to be doing a body weight workout primarily, also using some resistance bands. I think one of the challenges with a body weight only workout for legs is creating enough resistance. For example, you drop down, you do some body weight only squats. It's not bad conditioning, but it really doesn't have the level of intensity that I like. So I'm going to show you how I go about this to try to build up to that. So what I like to do is do some isolation movements first. So focusing primarily on quads, then doing the same thing with hamstrings and glutes, then coming into a compound movement like a squat. So first exercise is going to be quad focused. So to make something quad focused, we want to try to move only at the knee and minimize any movement at the hip. That's why we would do, say, a leg extension machine. So when you don't have any kind of equipment, a little more challenging, but there's one easy way to do that. I'm going to do that here using the rack with a band peg, but you could easily do this with an open door. So taking the door and then holding both sides of the handle, you'll do it just like I'm going to do it here. And that is putting feet pretty close to the door, or in this case, the rack. And you're going to let one leg go past one side of the door, and the other leg goes past the other side. So in this case, it'll be the upright here. The key to this is a sissy squat. The key to this is trying to keep a straight line from the knee through the hip to the shoulder. So we don't want to bend here at the hip. And we do this by leaning backwards. So holding on, leaning back. Now the movement's all there at the knee and back to our starting position. Now control that rep speed. Nice and controlled. Keep the weight on your toes. Six, 7, 8. Starting to feel those quads. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Nice. Those actually feel really, really good. Make sure you stretch out those quads in between. Try to keep our rest periods short, 90 seconds. Just enough time to stretch, grab some water, and we're going to turn around and do set 2. I imagine if you wanted to try adding bands to that, you could probably figure out a way. Personally, I don't find that it's necessary. If you really focus on dropping deep down into that sissy squat and then keeping that straight line, it's pretty good quad workout. So the concept here, by doing our isolation moves first, is we're pre-fatiguing those muscles. And that way when we get in to our compound movements like a squat or a split squat, we're already kind of partly fatigued, and it doesn't take as much resistance to make that compound movement super effective. All right. Let me do this set with the door just so you can see what it looks like. Probably not the best handle just because it's kind of narrow here. But same exact concept here. So I like to stay on my toes. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Nice. Whew. Now the challenge with doing these is you have to constantly remind yourself to keep that nice straight line. It's really easy to start moving at the hip. What I tell myself, my cue, is I'm always thinking about looking at the ceiling. If I start looking in front of me, it's really hard to lean back. So the easiest way is tilt your head back. Tilt your head back, let those shoulders fall back. So that just happens to be my cue. You'll have to figure out what works for you. Key two, I find, is getting up on your toes. If you keep your feet flat and you have your weight on your heel, it doesn't feel the same. There's other ways to do a sissy squat. This is just one. All right, here we go. Third set. Nice thing about this is you can do this anywhere that you've got a door. Here we go. So again, looking up toward the ceiling, letting that shoulder fall back. And knees coming forward. First 7 for me, pretty easy. That's 8. By the time I get to 10, they're starting to burn. 9, I'm already feeling it. And I'm going to push through and get 5 more. 11. 12. 13. 14. Nice. So the general rule when it comes to making any movement more quad focused is more movement at the knee. If you want it to be more hamstring glute focused, more movement at the hip. So when we do a squat, at least a full range deep squat, we're getting both. We've got a little more than 90 degrees at the knee, 90 degrees at the hip, and that's why that's quads, hamstrings, and glutes. So if it's only movement at the knee, of course that's quads. So now we do the opposite, and we only move at the hip. So that is going to be an RDL, or a Romanian deadlift. And that's going to be hamstrings and glutes. So that's what's next, and that's where we're going to use the bands. Now, any kind of movement at the hip, hip thrusters as an example, same exact movement, same concept. All right. I like to keep the band right under the arch of my foot. Now I can take the band like this and step inside the loop, and now take out the slack. We don't want to grab it here. There's no resistance here. So we need to make sure we have resistance nice and low. The other way that I can do this, which these days I prefer, is doubling the band up. And the reason I prefer this, I can either just hold it like this, a little easier than gripping the sides of the bands, or I can come in here and use the band almost like a wrist strap. And now it doesn't require as much grip strength. Just like that. And then I can adjust the tension by widening my stance, and now I'm stretching the band more, creating more tension. So I'll come up here to a starting position. So the move is just soft knees, not bent knees. You don't want them hyperextended, locked out. So soft knees, keeping the back straight, and we're gonna come down. And what you really want to feel is almost that stretch in the hamstrings. If we soften our knees too much, we take the stretch away from it. If we bend our back, we take the stretch out of the hamstring. So back straight, legs just barely bent, and then we come back up. And nice and controlled on that eccentric or your negative. Now, I'm not thinking about pulling the band up and going back down. I'm thinking about pushing my butt back on the way down, and then driving my hips forward as I come up. It's almost like my arms aren't doing anything. They're just hooks. The movement is all at the hip. So that's all you're doing. You're pushing your hips backwards, driving them forward. And on the way down, think like a brake, slowing it down. It's like a car going downhill. Gotta use your brakes. Slow it down. One more. Nice. Stretch out the hamstring in between. Now, if we were doing traditional weight training, standard practice has always been to do your compound movements first, isolation afterward. The reason being, let's say we're doing bar squats. You want to do it in the beginning when you're stronger, you're fresh, because higher risk of injury or even, losing our balance. So we want to do it when we're stronger. Then we come in afterward and we do our isolation. So here, we're doing the opposite. We're doing all our isolation stuff first, pre-fatigue those muscles, and then come in and do our compound movements because we don't have to worry about safety. We're not putting, 500 pounds on our back on a bar. But if you were to reference, say, the National Strength and Conditioning Association, like I said, that was always standard protocol. Compound movements first. All right. Let's do set 2. Now another option, you can stay right there, come right back. Instead of looping around your wrist, I use these a lot. If you're watching the band stuff, these are just some generic fat grip style handles that are made for barbells and dumbbells. But we can use them for this as well. So you put them on opposite ends. This isn't bad. Obviously grab it where the slot is facing up. All right. So soft knees, straight back. Hips forward. Push the hips back. Six. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Whew. Now doing this movement, for me, feels a lot more in glutes than I do hamstrings. You're using both. But of course, if we want to really isolate the hamstrings, that's where we're going to come in here with flexion at the knee, like doing a leg curl. But this is great to incorporate to make sure you are hitting glutes. I had someone ask me once, well, can't I just come in and do leg curls for quads and then leg curls for hamstrings and leg extensions for quads? And you can. The problem with that is you're not really doing anything for glutes, and that's where either a compound movement like a squat or even a lunge or something like this is going to come in, because no one wants a flat ass. All right, last one of these. If you're training at home and you don't have a leg curl or leg extension machine. Seemed like maybe 2 weeks ago. You can go back and look. Showed some options for doing it with bands that not as good as a machine in a gym, but pretty effective. Two. Three. Four. Five. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Yeah. Trying to do those without shitting myself. Had some sushi last night that might not have been so good. Trying to ride a fine line here with my level of intensity. Don't want to push it too hard. Okay. Barring me shitting myself, we're going to move into a single leg squat. Some people call it a split squat. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't have gotten rid of those. So we're going to do the same thing. And we don't have to. Maybe a second set. So, 2 ways you can do this. You can double the band up under your front foot, and we can grab low. This gives you a lot of control for adjusting your tension. And another way to do this, step underneath the band, and we can come right across our shoulders. I like to hold it so it's not up on my neck. And you can go with a heavier resistance band, and we can do the same thing. So both are great options. This way you don't have to worry about holding on to it, so you don't have to rely on grip strength. So totally up to you. I'm gonna go with the second version. Now, 3 positions here to change the focus. So remember the concept here. More movement at the knee means more quad. More movement at the hip, more glutes and hamstrings. So if I keep everything about 90, right? My shin is perpendicular to the floor, got a 90-degree angle here at the knee, and I press straight up and down. It's a nice balance between quad, hamstring, and glute. Couldn't tell you the exact ratios other than it's pretty balanced. Now, if I shorten my stance a little and I let the knee come more over the toe and put the weight on the toe, now I can make that more quad focus. I have a lot more movement at the knee. Look at the angle of the knee right here. A lot like what it was with our Sissy squat. Or I can widen my stance a little, put my weight on my heel and drive backwards. Lost my balance there for a second. Try that again. Drive backwards. See how we have a lot less movement at the knee? Has a tendency to be more hamstring glute focused. Oh, my stomach. I'm trying to hang in there for you guys. Oh, this seems dangerous. Never do split squats the day after bad sushi. That's just a rule of thumb. Words of wisdom. You can take that one to the bank. I'm playing with fire right now. So we're going to do these right in the middle. Oh, shit. So normally, I would add more resistance here. The nice thing about the over the shoulder method is you can stack bands. You can use more than one band at once. So I turn around and do the other side. Definitely the intensity wasn't there. You want to try to make that a whole lot harder than I just did. I rushed through those really fast because unfortunately, I'm done with this workout. Got some business to take care of. So you know what to do. Do 3 sets of those. Find a resistance level you like that's going to push you, whether that's 10 reps, 12, 15. Personally, I like to stick in that 12 to 15 when it comes to using the bands and just really try to get a good burn there in the legs, good pump. But that combination of pre-fatiguing quads and pre-fatiguing glutes, hamstrings, then coming in to your compound movement, in my opinion, makes that a little easier to make that exercise not only effective, but bump up the intensity because those muscles are already pre-fatigued. So that's a wrap for me. I'm sweating and it's not that kind of sweating. It's not from the workout. So I will see you next workout.